However, today we should chat about the most exciting thing that we've been using recently, and that's Notebook LM and all its cool features. I'm excited to hear how you've been using it for your certifications, and I'll share how I have been using it for a couple of things. And yeah, it's quite exciting.
Right. I've been playing with this tool a lot in the last month, and I found a couple of use cases. First one that we've been using last year a lot is that every time there's a new study related to artificial intelligence, I was uploading the PDF document into one of our notebook LMs. And so now we actually have a good place where we can go for knowledge. It's a collection of information. So we can have a conversation with the agent about the knowledge. The best part of this is that it doesn't hallucinate.
Yeah, yeah. That's really or if it doesn't hallucinate. I would be careful about that. It has the lowest hallucination rates. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, well said.
Lowest hallucination rates, yes. Yeah, it is fantastic tool, and it has evolved from a mind-blowing podcast making tool, which for many of us, this is how we discovered Notebook LM and became like heavy users of it in some cases. And it was a really great showcase to many of people. Like, look, this is what how different this tool is. Not only low hallucination rates, but you can create podcasts from your sources. But yeah, I agree. It can become a hub for context and having your knowledge database in there. I'm quite curious. Did you learn anything in that Google certification about how Notebook LM is connected to Gemini and how this can all work together in some ways?
Yeah, there is that's actually why I was describing first Notebook LM as kind of knowledge base, because that's what it is. It's your notebook full of information related to a certain topic. And then after you get this collection and you can use the features of Notebook LM, like you can ask like, what is in this knowledge? Find it and get me to the source. Then what you also described that you can generate a podcast from it and other features. Or you can even have video podcast, for example, and like other things, is that when you're creating a new gem in Gemini, which is like the pre-prompted assistant in Gemini, one of the knowledge sources, which used to be like Google Drive, uploaded files, now you can select a notebook in Notebook LM,
Mm, mm, okay.
which I think is very useful, very useful. Maybe I can also share the screen and show you how I approached the Google certification, because I think that there is a little bit of a story background. Over the Christmas, I was at home and I met my cousin. She was studying for exams. It's her first year at university. And she was reading some PDF documents. And I was looking over her shoulder, looking at it. And I was just like, why don't you use Notebook LM? Of course, she said, well, what is Notebook LM? I feel like that's one of the tools that nobody knows about, but it's really powerful. And so I showed her this, and in a few days, she came back to me, showed me like, oh, this is insanely powerful. And she was using it. She was asking it questions all the time. So then I decided I'm doing the certification with Google. I'm going to use it the same way. So I'm going to share the screen. So this is my notebook LM. You can see multiple notebooks. This is the one that I created last month, Google AI Leader. I uploaded knowledge, which are 3 documents basically. So here on the left side, this is the sources. These are the documents that I needed that are used as the knowledge of this notebook. And
Mm,
here on the right side, they call it Studio. And here are the features that from the knowledge, you can, for example, generate an audio overview, video overview, mind map, reports, flashcards, quiz, infographics, slide deck. Awesome. So what I did actually is that at first I created flashcards, which I can show you what it looks like. It asks you this: what is the primary expertise of a Google Cloud certified generative AI leader? And then you answer in your head or out loud, you click it and it gives you the answer on the card. Then you go to another card. The best part of this is that you can click this button explain. So when you don't know the reply, you click explain, and here in the chat, it explains you why the correct answer is this. So this is exactly what I was doing with all the 60 flashcards, and then I created more. So this is the way I practiced. And then in the chat, you could see there is the whole history of topics that I asked to be explained. And after I finished all the flashcards, what I did is that I asked in the chat, based on everything I've been asking about in this chat, generate a prompt for a podcast that sums up everything I should be practicing. And then I pasted the prompt into the audio overview here. Here you can paste the prompt that you can specify which topic from your knowledge you're interested in. I choose the right format and click generate. And as a result, I had this podcast here that I went for a walk, and for 15 minutes, because there is also a mobile app, I was listening for 15 minutes. I was listening the topics that I needed to study them a little bit more.
Yeah, it's quite mind blowing, isn't it? One thing that I would like to point out as well is you clicked on the audio overview, but we need to kind of highlight this in here to for people to understand it. Now, this is wow, you can choose a format that's really interesting. That's a new feature. It's been introduced, I think, just a couple of weeks ago, because when I used it back in beginning of December, this wasn't there. You could only choose the length, so short, default, long languages. I'm not sure how many languages are there.
A lot.
If you click on that, yeah, it's fantastic. And then classic. You choose the prompting and what the AI should focus on in this episode, so you can say things like what your skill level is, what it should focus on, what topics are you mostly interested in, and things like that. This is phenomenal. I can show also how I used this thing, but it was very similar to you. But I haven't used the flashcards, but this was fantastic. What else
Yep.
have you tried out of these studio functions?
I tried basically all of them because I wanted to see what is the result that it's giving. I find mind map very useful because if you have loads of knowledge in the sources, the mind map kind of gives you the idea of what is inside of the sources. Like what quiz was also quite fun, that it's testing your knowledge in a way. Infographic didn't get great results. Slide deck, I didn't test slide deck actually. Video overview is interesting because you can choose the style you like, which is, I think, cool.
Oh,
Uh,
this is really cool, man. This is
yeah. Also, you can prompt it here to focus on a specific part of what you want to talk about. I have asked here in the chat about a certain topic. It gave me the answer. And what I can do is that I can save the answer as a note. So I'll do it. And what is happening is that the note was added here to the studio, and I can open it and I can manually edit it. But what I only wanted to say is that this note is here basically for you, same as all the studio artifacts
artifact.
that you have it still here. And the same with the note. So I can come here and this is my note because it was important for me. I saved it. But what I can do, as you said, I can convert it to source. And what happens is that it was added here into the source. But the cool part is that when you have some piece of the data that like from the chat, you can simply move it to the sources. That's one way to enrich the sources. And one way that I find extremely helpful is this part. Try deep research for an in-depth report to add new sources. So for example, here, I wanted to research Nano Banana 3 because in the Google certification that I was doing, there was no mention of Nano Banana. So I wanted to add it to the resources. So I did a deep research on this topic. I imported them into my resources. So now it's not only the resources that I uploaded in the PDF document, but also the deep research that I would run in Gemini. I can just directly run it from here and enrich the knowledge here.
Yeah, that's great.
And maybe I can show really quickly this Gemini feature here. And I can create a new jam. That's what you were asking about. So this is as if I'm creating a pre-prompted assistant. I name it research assistant, for example. I'll write the instructions here. You are helpful research assistant, blah, blah, blah. And the knowledge here that you can upload files and so on. And if I click here, I can also choose Notebook LM. So I click Notebook LM and I can add the Google AI Leader, for example. And all the knowledge that I have in that notebook is just in my jam.
Yeah, this is fantastic. There are so many use cases, right? Like in building learning content or slide decks and things like that. Yeah.
Also, what I want to say to this topic is that there is plenty of resources online. I created a YouTube playlist, probably like 10 videos. Each of them has maybe 3 minutes. And each video is presenting one feature of Notebook LM. And it's presented by the developers who developed actual Notebook LM. So you see the people who built this tool.
Mm, mm,
I'll
fantastic.
put it into the comments of this podcast.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I can share how I used for Notebook LM for one of the research that I've done.
Do it, please.
The story goes, I wanted to know what are the new trends in learning and development in terms of building new learning content. So since COVID, there is we started consuming a lot of things online. The meetings are online, the learning sessions are online. We deliver webinars online. But how did the development of the content change? What are the gamification principles? How the content is structured? Things like that. Our short attention span. So all these things I wrote into a deep research into Claude, ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Gemini. And each produced a long PDF. Sometimes it has 30 pages, sometimes more. I wanted to compare all those four documents in some ways. I can go for a walk and listen to this. So that's what I've done in this scenario. Here we go. So I took the deep research, Perplexity, GPT, and Claude. What I've done first of all was create a mind map of it. So I wanted to see how the content is structured because I asked a lot of questions, a lot of things in that research, so I could kind of make sense of what is actually in those documents. So if you produce a deep research and you don't want to, read the whole 30 pages there is there, but you need to understand what sections are there. And I think the mind map is really helping you out to understand. It's like a index in a book. So when you're starting to read a book, you look at the index and you see the chapters and you see what's going on. And that's when I got to the audio overview. I created two different audio overviews. One was a short one, and one was like 48-minute one. If you imagine 48-minute podcast discussion about such a deep research. Like this would take weeks to produce. Doing those three research things would take you days to produce. And doing a podcast for an hour to discuss this, two people would need to consume this content and have a discussion and tailor it to a specific types of audience. I think that's absolutely mind blowing. So, and the other thing is it can be interactive. So you can pause it and ask a question as well, which is another feature which blew my
Yes.
mind. So this is like your private lecture tailored to specifically what you want and what you need. It's the matter of how these students will be able to utilize this, because we know the attention span is going down. This is a new way of consuming and learning and being active. One of the principles of learning is to be really active and interactive things. So flashcards, quizzes, things like that. It's going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, agree. This is a great example. We very often talk about the new way of working. Now it's new way of studying as well.
Yeah, new way of learning things, new
Yeah.
way of researching, same thing. And I think one of the biggest use cases, I would say, is fact checking in some way. When we
Mhm.
build some content and you build a notebook where we save all these studies, all these new things, and you can have even a hypothesis about, oh, I think this is, well, I don't know, 6% of people do blah blah blah. Oh, I remember that I read somewhere. So you can go there and ask the question, is this true? Or has this resource mentioned that? Or what resource mentions these two things correlating? Or what is the cause of the very tailored answer from your own resources? So that's how you can, I think, navigate this post-fact era in some ways, that you choose the sources that you trust.
I'm thinking that this year it's all about context and knowledge. Like
Yeah.
if you have the knowledge that you want to work with, I mean have knowledge, I don't mean in your head, but you have the files, the databases, you have the data. And now you're finally able to connect the data, not just in Notebook LM, in other tools as well, that you can provide your agents with data and the tools that you already can connect to external services. So now you have true agent who can go and consume the data, based on the data, make decisions and act. So this is, in my opinion, going to be happening a lot in 2026.
Absolutely, 100%. We hear this from lots of those podcasts that we listen to. AI Daily Brief has been talking about this for months. And one of the things that I would emphasize in here for like an action point from this, because yes, it's going to be a era of context. What it actually means for individuals is to clear up your files, structure, make systems, folder things up, because AI won't be able to just guess where your files are, maybe even in the future. But if you have a messy things, you need to kind of make nice cleanup of things, prepare everything together, delete the old things, prepare the new things. I think that's one of the key things to do in the new year, as one of the first actionable items that can help you to enter the contextual era and utilize this in the full scale.
Absolutely agree. Yep. Great. Nice one.
Very good, beautiful.